Welcome back. It's the end of May. The trees have leaves, and as you can see, there's been a lot of progress on the front porch project. I can't wait to get you caught up. But first, let's pick up where we left off. There was a lot more winter left the last time we talked, and you probably remember that we had a rough patch over the holidays. I'm glad to say that the rest of the winter was pretty uneventful, except that one little incident on our challenging driveway. Good morning and welcome to mud season. It's the beginning of March. The ground is starting to thaw.
There's a couple spots on the driveway that have sheets of ice on them basically. And it was raining when I got home, so the sheets of ice are wet and very, very slick. And this is the first time ever that our Subaru wouldn't get up our driveway.
So Charles came in the door last night a bit wet, and he said, "Do you need to go to work in the morning?" And I said, "Yes, why?" And he said, "Because I couldn't get the car up the driveway." And I said, "Did you leave it at the bottom?" And he said, "Nope." So we're gonna go see where it is. Well, most of the driveway is mud this morning instead of ice. Looks like there's still some ice right under the car though.
It does. I don't know. Maybe I will just try pulling it out first.
I vote for the chains.
When the ice is wet, it's super slick, and not even these tires will grip.
So if you're wondering how I'm going to get down the driveway, we left the chain on, and hopefully that will get us safely past the slippery spot, but we're going to film this just in case. I'm going to go ahead and put it in hill descent mode. I guess I don't need to do it until we get down there. Okay, now I'm going to put it in X mode, just in case.
Chains are going to be muddy. I didn't slip one little bit going down last night, and it was wet then.
Good. Good here. Good job, Subaru.
Yep.
Good job, chains.
Part of our goal here is to put up a lot of birdhouses and not really put up bird feeders, because we want to try to keep the birds around, give them habitat rather than feed them and feed the bears and everything else that comes around with that. So this year, so far I've got a couple of tree swallow houses built. So when we moved here, I wanted to get trees in the ground immediately. So we would have fruit trees growing, and by this time, hopefully producing a little fruit. But that didn't happen. Part of the reason is we're on a lot of ledge, and the ground is hard to find places to actually plant tree-sized plants. didn't end up happening, and now we're 3 years in and we still had not had any type of food growing here other than the wild berries. So this year I finally put other projects aside and I ended up getting some grapevines, which I planted around the edge of our deck. They're table grapes. And I finally ended up getting, so far, 4 fruit trees. We got a cherry, a peach, and 2 apple trees.
Good morning. It's finally spring around here. It is the end of April, and we've gotten through the rest of our long winter and our long mud season. And Charles is back at it on the property. He has planted several grapes and a few fruit trees, and he has been staging materials for a few new projects. One of those is the bridge to the covered porch. Another is the screening of the covered porch. So he has put up a big ladder and built himself some makeshift scaffolding up there. I have been completely unavailable on the property due to my other responsibilities. And every day when I leave, I ask Charles to promise me that he will not go up while I'm away. That has been a difficult sell, but here we are. He has managed to wait a few more days, and I'm here to film it and to help him get down should he end up dangling from the end of his harness, which we hope does not happen.
Today's project is putting screen on our screened-in porch. I'm going to try to get as far as I can, but at least get the 2 high sides done while Jill is here to take me to the hospital if I fall.
The inspiration for this screened-in porch came about 3 years ago when we first moved here and faced the reality of mosquitoes at dinner time. And I'm not sure if it comes through on camera, but screening in the porch is a really big job. The deck underneath is 16 feet wide and 14 feet deep, and the scaffolding where Charles is working right now is about 15 feet off the ground. He didn't want to have to move that scaffolding more than he had to, so he had the trim pieces for the high section ready to go before he started stapling the screen up there. That way, he could be completely finished with the highest section before moving on to the next area.
Charles had the rope up there to protect him, and now that he's done with the job, he has to get the rope back without it protecting him.
At this point, the hardest part of the project was done, and it was time to move the scaffolding to a slightly less terrifying level. Then Charles got up there to start hanging the largest section of the screen. But
Oh no. What the heck? Somehow I've made a mismeasurement and my screen does not fit from top to bottom. The screen is 6 foot wide and this is like 74 inches. So I've got to figure out how to make it work. I think the easiest way to fix this is to raise these rails by 3 inches so the screen will fit. And I'll just have to cut a couple of new supports, but that makes everything easy and I can still use all the lumber I have cut.
This next part of the project may require a bit of explanation. I know it's not very obvious on camera, but there's actually an open space between the beam and the roof that can't be easily screened. So Charles has cut scraps of wood to use as siding up there and get it closed up. You may notice at this point that Charles has gotten tired of the harness and started running around up there without it. Oh well, at least he used it on the highest section. If you've been following our story for a while, you'll know that we lived in our travel trailer for several years while the yurt was being finished out on the inside. And that experience felt pretty different from this one in a way that I'll try to explain. Now that we're living in the same space while it's evolving, there are little things that can change our daily experience in ways that are awesome, like being able to step outside the front door without getting rained on. And some of the changes are a bit disorienting, like suddenly having to enter and exit our living space through 2 doors instead of 1. But of course, we do need screen doors if we want to avoid hanging out with mosquitoes and keep the birds from getting trapped inside the screen. So let's talk about our door situation. We had a screen door that came with the yurt kit, and that's what Charles is hanging at the entrance of the porch, which we'll access from a bridge instead of stairs. And eventually, the place where we've been stepping up onto the deck all along will be enclosed by a cable railing, so we won't be able to get in that way anymore. But of course, we still need to be able to access the platform that goes all the way around the yurt. So Charles is building 2 more screen doors And the space they need to span is 4 feet wide, so they're pretty big doors. Our indoor cats don't know it yet, but after this project is all done, they're going to be allowed to hang out on the porch too.
So the past few weeks I have been trying to get this screened-in porch finished, and it's getting close. All the screened-in windows are all done, and the siding is done, and 2 big things left to do are build doors, screen doors, for the 2 openings that go around our deck, and to seal off between the 2 roof lines to keep water, snow, birds, and mosquitoes from coming through.
Show me your biscuit joint.
So we need to put glue on this face and glue on this face and in the slot. And then make sure this is all glued up when you stick it in. And when you put it on, it slides down, and this needs to be even right here.
This is a big project, but Charles has been making steady progress all spring. One of my favorite things about the spring is that the birds are back. The robins built their nest under the solar panels again this year. The bluebirds are back in the bluebird box at the top of the hill. The tree swallows still haven't stayed, but they did check out the great crested flycatcher box. The chickadees have been spending quite a lot of time in the bluebird box right behind the yurt, but we're not really sure if they're going to lay their eggs there yet. And the phoebes, they've started making a nest all the way up at the top of our brand new porch.
Our porch is basically a tree house. It kind of looks like that when you're standing inside it. The way our topography works, we would have to walk down a hill and back up steps to get into onto the porch. So instead of putting steps up into the porch, we decided to put a bridge across. Building the bridge, starting out, was a little bit of a pain, having to dig out the ground to do that, and there's a lot of ledge there, so I dug the ground out with a pick to make the receiving part of the bridge. Then putting the bridge together, I had to lift the bridge up, the end of the bridge, to be able to get the end plate on it while not having it slip out of my joist hangers on the porch. So I got these chairs and propped it up so I could actually get to everything. And then when it was all put together, all the framing was put together, I took the chairs out and dropped it down into the hole. Since we used the Trex decking all the way around the yurt, we used that same Trex decking on the bridge itself. Then I put concrete around the end of the bridge just to hold it in place solid so it doesn't slide side to side or try to slide out. This last board that we're putting on here is actually a board left over from doing the original deck. It looks like a different color, but it is the same color pattern. It's just from a different lot. And after sitting for so long, it actually bows.
You want me to stand on it?
I just had Jill stand on the end, and I kind of struggled through, and once it was screwed down, it pulls the bow out of it.
Now that the bridge is something we can walk on instead of something we can just imagine, we're able to enter and exit through the main door that also didn't exist a few weeks ago. So Charles is going to go ahead and screen in the homemade doors and hang those in place. They'll still need trim around the screen, and we're waiting for handles and latches to arrive in the mail. But I think at this point you can get a pretty good idea what the finished porch is going to look like, and how much we might enjoy sitting outside on a summer evening or having dinner with our family and friends. So thanks for coming along, and we hope you'll join us again soon for the cable railing project. See you soon.